Obviously not a conspiracy theory.
Obviously not a conspiracy theory. Now, we're seeing at the minute what the media and the establishment have been calling global boiling
Yes.
recently. So you've heard that
Yes.
term being coined recently. Fires have mysteriously erupted throughout the world recently. We've had Greece, Turkey, Canada. La Palma's been a pretty common one, and Maui in Hawaii, which has taken precedent in alternative media spaces and, of course, independent media. And the authorities have claimed that majority of these fires are due to arsons. And it's strange because the media and the establishment are, of course, saying that it's climate change.
Yes.
Because they want to reinforce that narrative, right?
They want to manufacture consent.
Of course, exactly. But the one particular fire that we're going to look at, as I'm sure you've seen the title of the video, is, of course, the Maui one. Because we don't actually know what caused it, which is really weird because every other fire, we know what's caused it. Now, I'm not going to go down the route of what people have been saying online about DEWs and things like that.
Chinese directed energy weapons.
Yes, things like that.
There was that weird instance where there were lights in the sky like last year, wasn't there?
Yeah.
So I've heard that might be because they do have military bases around there.
Mhm.
So it might be more likely that the US were testing something than the Chinese were.
Yeah.
But
I'm not going to go down that route,
Right.
okay? Because as much as I've been tarred with the conspiracy theorist label a lot,
yes.
I'm not going to go down that route. So I won't be saying anything about DEWs because, quite frankly, I don't know too much.
No.
So I'd rather not speculate. But according to World Economic Forum paid Reuters,
Oh, right.
on August the 8th, this wildfire, so they've claimed it's a wildfire already, even though we don't know what's caused it.
Yes.
So that's interesting to start with. Ripped through Lahaina on the island of Maui with a population of around 13,000. And it's been a big tourist hub, which draws 2 million tourists a year. So it's quite a big hub. Cadaver dogs and rescue workers have searched 85% of Lahaina. I hope I've said that right. Child ruins for victims and officials. They said that it was likely that the toll would continue to rise. Now,
They said about 1,000 plus people are missing, right?
yes, exactly. Now, they said that the death toll is around 114 people
It's
now.
going to be a lot higher than that.
It's going to be a lot. Now, there have been some independent reporters on the ground. I know Rebel News is over there with Alexa Lavoie and Lincoln Jay, who are doing fantastic work. And a guy called Nick Sauter is over there. And he's been challenging the mayor, which I'll show you very soon. But they're claiming it's around sort of 500, 600 is just the bare minimum. But the mayor isn't saying anything, which we'll go into. Now, on the next part, there's been a media blackout in the country where this letter was given to officials, where it says, Homeland Security issued a letter asking Maori officials to pause on posting on social media and elsewhere of new imagery. And this was on the 19th of August, as you can see there. And the guy who posted this said, obviously, the guy has to remain anonymous.
Yeah.
Understandable. Very interesting, a media blackout on new imagery.
That's very interesting because we saw this sort of messaging happen when there were the Paris riots.
Yes.
And Emmanuel Macron said, if you post any TikToks or Twitter clips of someone burning down department stores and of the diversity going out and firing RPGs at police stations, it's just going to make it worse. And it's like, well, no, what makes it worse is that it's happening and you allowed it to happen. So just showing videos of it happening isn't encouraging it. It's actually saying, please go and sort it.
Yeah, please alert you to this problem.
Yeah, so making everyone else aware of your screw-ups is inconvenient for the regime.
Exactly.
That's what I'm getting here.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm getting. So we still don't know how it started, and it's been since the 8th of August, and we are now the 24th of August. So, bit weird. But what we do know is, like a lot of disasters, it could have been prevented. And this is an article from Breitbart, which reads, Maui emergency management head resigns after questions of not sounding the alarm during the wildfires. So,
that's interesting because a couple of years ago as well, there was a failure for the emergency alert system from Hawaii that said they were going to have a nuclear strike.
Yeah.
And people were like,
What?
Yeah, and they were slow to release the, "Sorry, lads, false alarm, you're not all
Yeah.
gonna be burned to death." Well, they are now.
It says the resignation came after a disastrous news conference on Wednesday, wherein Andaya defended his decision to not activate sirens in Lahaina, arguing that it would have sent people fleeing into the fires. Um, Now, when a burglar alarm goes off, you don't go and make the burglar tea. Do you know what I mean? You
Yeah,
don't go and meet him.
Point made.
You alert to
Yes.
there is an intruder. That you alert. In this case, there is a fire. Get out.
Yeah.
What logic did he come to say that, oh, this alarm, when that goes off, it just means that people will be flooding into the fire? Really weird. And there's a video on this article of him saying that.
You regret not sounding the sirens.
I do not. And the reason why, and
So many people said they could have been saved if they had time to escape. Had a siren gone off, they would have known that there was a crisis emerging. And as we know, so many bodies were found in the ground.
Do you want him to give you the answer, or do you want to give? Well, then let him finish. Let him finish his answer.
Sorry, there's a lot of people.
Well, you're talking and you're not letting him talk. If you want to talk, come up here.
I'm ready for the answer.
Then wait.
the sirens, as I had mentioned earlier, is used primarily for tsunamis. And that's the reason why many of them are found, almost all of them are found on the coastline. The public is trained to seek higher ground in the event that the siren is sounded. In fact, on the website of the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, the following guideline is provided. If you are in a low-lying area near the coastline, evacuate to high grounds, inland or vertically to the fourth floor and higher of a concrete building. Alerts may also come in the form of a wireless emergency alert. Had we sounded the siren that night, we're afraid that people would have gone Malka. And if that was the case, then they would have gone into the fire. And so that is the reason why our protocol has been to use WEA and EAS.
So his argument was, yes, that if the alarm went off, people would head towards the fire instead of away from it. Bit weird.
Yeah, but there's this sort of institutional incompetence or otherwise.
Yeah,
I think comes with the bureaucratization of risk.
yes.
So you get this with the stay-in-place orders. As soon as an apartment block sets alight, and they trust that the fire department will come in and put it out before anyone else gets harmed. But as funds trickle away from the fire departments, as you staff it with more incompetent people,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying firefighters are incompetent. I'm just saying as diversity hires and people who aren't as physically equipped to deal
Sure.
with these risks happen, you're going to get more avoidable tragedies.
Exactly.
Then they are distrustful of the people to take the risk into their own hands, but also in outsourcing it, more people suffer because the thing you've outsourced it to is less competent at dealing with the problem. And this is the kind of thing that happened with Grenfell, right?
Yes,
They didn't
yes.
check the exterior cladding, which was
No.
really flammable, and then they didn't evacuate people fast enough. And so people that didn't understand, particularly on the top floors that didn't have as much time to get away, that a fire was going on, they just roasted in their homes.
Yeah.
And it was only the people that took the risk upon themselves to go, no, I'm going to run and try and escape, that got out alive.
Exactly. Well, I did some digging, as one curious journalist does.
Right.
And this is a website called, it's the County of Maui Outdoor Warning Siren Testing, because the guy in the video explained, we've only got a few and it's all in water. That's a lie. I did some digging, and on this website, it explains how the county has an all-hazard statewide outdoor warning siren systems placed across the county for all national disasters. In the video, I believe he argued that it only does for tsunamis. He flat out lied,
Right.
because it's right here. A monthly test is conducted of the Emergency Alert System, EAS, at 11:15 a.m., followed by a test of the outdoor warning sirens at 11:45 on the first state workday of each month. This siren test consists of a 60-second steady tone.
So it should have been working.
It should have been working. And they even provided some quick facts on this website as well, which I'll read out a few of them. Hawaii has the largest single integrated public safety outdoor siren warning system in the world. The all-hazard siren system can be used for a variety of both natural and human-caused events, such as tsunamis, hurricanes, dam breaches, flooding, wildfires, volcanic eruptions, terrorist threats, hazardous material incidents, and more. And the siren's output is 121 decibels. That's pretty loud.
Yeah.
And it's tested every month. So why didn't it go off on this particular occasion? Well, it seemed to me that he chose not to sound the alarm. So that's pretty worrying, to say the least. But it gets even weirder. The residents needed water in order to put the fires out. Well, the water system collapsed, weirdly, on that day. So not only did the alarms mysteriously not work, but the water system didn't work to, in fact, fight the fire. And it said firefighters who rushed to contain the Maui wildfire, keep saying wildfire, even though we don't know what caused it, found fire hydrants were running dry, forcing crews to embark on a perilous rescue mission. What's your thoughts?
I'm thinking this is the Jeffrey Epstein of wildfire prevention.
Yeah. Well, there's been some theories going around. The Guardian, according to The Guardian, the reason why there was no water to fight the fires was because of corporations, golf courses, and hotels.
Right, so that's interesting. If you can scroll up, Jack. Are you familiar with the author of this piece? Naomi Klein.
I recognize that name.
So Naomi Klein was a big Bernie supporter because
Of course.
she's an open Marxist. However, she wrote a book, it was 2008. No, it would have been slightly before, called Shock Doctrine. And her thesis is for disaster capitalism, disaster profiteering, the government and corporations will engineer disasters, be it war in Iraq,
Interesting.
or be it the Gulf War with Reagan and Thatcher,
Uh-huh.
in order to retain power and then act as the cleanup crew. For example, Biden giving his brother all of those housing development plans in Iraq in the aftermath. So maybe she's suggesting that this wildfire was allowed to be worse than it could have been, and that lives were lost and area was cleared, earth was scorched, so that, well, the very profitable people that live on this island could come in and act as cleanup crew and gentrify the place.
Yeah, well, she blames big corporations, golf courses, and hotels. But here's the Hawaiian water official who allegedly refused to release the water resources to let landowners fight the fire, where he explains the philosophy of how water is sacred, saying that the native Hawaiians treated water as one of the early manifestations of God, so very paganistic, and that we've become used to looking at water as something that we use and not only something that we revere. In other words, if that's true, and this is obviously posted by Charlie Kirk, that he refused to release the water resources, he's contributed to many of these deaths.
So, sure. And it could be a combination of culturally relativistic wokery that permits idiots like these to set policy. But it's also the thing of how convenient for the people that would like the place to be scorched earth to then rebuild atop the ashes was it to have this person in here which has a narrative as to why the water systems could be shut off so they could achieve their ends.
Well, I was going to play the video. I don't think it's worth our time. I think we should just read a bit of what Charlie said. I think we've basically covered it, but it's. I don't want to swear, but it's just a load of nonsense.
Yes.
Honestly, what he's talking about.
I'm smelling bovine excrement.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, he's part of this strange philosophy, this paganistic philosophy of worshipping water, and because of that, a lot of victims unfortunately died because of this. But the Guardian says it's golf courses, but he's outright saying that it's no, we've got to protect water. Okay. Well, a local man explained how police actually blocked residents from leaving the area whilst the fire was ablaze, which is really interesting. I've seen the full clip of this, so I managed to just find a quick 47-second one. It's strangely edited, but I think it gives you a good idea.
Okay, we can play this in the browser then.
Right.
So I went around back to Front Street, and all the cars were lined up, but none of them were moving. And I walked all the way from Safeway to the chart house. Not one car had moved. And I was wondering what was stopping the traffic. And I got to the end and I looked up. There were no obstructions. There was no reason to keep those cars. And I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I'm under orders to keep them here." And I said, "The fire is right around Safeway. It's going to hit Front Street. You know, these people got to get out of here." And he said, I'm following orders.
No way.
So I just kept walking. Well, maybe he knows something I don't, So, and I keep walking down the highway, and I look behind, no cars are coming out. Still no cars coming out. And I started hearing boom, boom, boom.
So what he just explained was that police had orders to stop residents from fleeing the area. Yeah, that's odd. And I thought, it's just, when you take something, you've got to take it as face value to start with, but then you need sort of backup. You actually found something to back it up, and that's this. According to a report by AP, the only road out of Lahaina was barricaded, and only those who disobeyed survived. So,
yeah. So this is my question. Like, how many of those cars were occupied when he walked to the front? Was it that people had abandoned them after being told no, you can't, and tried to get away on foot, which presumably they maybe wouldn't have been allowed to walk past a police barricade, or were the cars already there to act as the barricade in and of themselves?
Well, it says here in this, if we go to the first one, if that's okay.
Yes.
So deadly fires, this is the one. As flames tore through West Maui neighborhood, car after car fleeing residents headed for the only paved road out of town in a desperate race for safety. And car after car was turned back towards rapidly spreading wildfire by a barricade blocking access to Highway 30. That doesn't sound good, does it?
No, that sense, my spidey sense are tingling, I suppose.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't like to go down the conspiracy route, even though I've been tarred with that brush, but still, there's something weird about that. And
there's at least people who have to answer for their incompetence if it is that.
Yes. Well, a journalist who I mentioned earlier, Nick Sauter, who's out there, flew to Maui to report. I think it's another
one. Yep,
that's the one. That's the one. He flew to Maui to report on what's happening, and he asked the mayor. He confronted the mayor about how many children died in the fire, and the mayor seemed visibly mad. It says, just hours after I began pressing the mayor of Maui super hard about children missing in the fire, I began to be stalked and harassed. Okay, so he asks the mayor these tough questions. All of a sudden, and we'll watch this clip, but he was on Steve Bannon's War Room, talking about how he's questioned the mayor.
There's a guy that just materializes behind him.
Just comes out of nowhere. We don't know. He said he doesn't know who he is. And he's like, we'll play the clip. But he basically comes up to him and says, hey, Nick, I've been trying to look for you. I've been trying to find you. And it's really creepy.
Right.
Ever since he started asking the mayor questions. So we'll play that.
Hey, what's up, Nick? I've been trying to reach you. Been reaching out to you on X. You're supposed to be meeting with people here. What victims have you got?
Okay, yeah. So this is so you're seeing this live right now. People actually tracked me down.
I thought you were staying in a tent. You said you were coming and staying in a tent, Nick. You're taking up resources.
I'm not taking up any resources here. People's minds here.
Bit creepy.
That's unbelievably delusional.
It's really weird. So nobody knows who this guy is. The guy came out of nowhere and just started harassing him and stalking him afterwards after he'd done the show with Bannon. And then he just, once again, materialized into thin air. Nobody knows where he is. Nobody knows who that guy is. Pretty weird. So there seems to be a strange thing where there's a lot of intimidation tactics going around because we don't know if that person is a local. We don't know if they work for someone.
They work for the government.
If they work for the government or someone like that.
If they're privately contracted by the exact kind of people that would be the cleanup crew.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Very, very weird. Very scary. So then you've spoken a lot about potential land grab.
Yeah. People that might benefit from this scenario being worse than it could have otherwise been.
Which is what we're going to go on to next. And this one's by Yahoo. Developers are actually trying to purchase the land. And the survivors,
really?
Yes, the survivors are actually saying no. Now, I thought originally when I was looking into this, I thought, is it normal for landowners or developers to buy up places that have been decimated by fires or wars and things like that?
As they're still burning, though.
Exactly.
This is literally before the bodies are cold. We don't even know how many people have died on the
Exactly. It's too quick. That's the weird thing. You usually once there's been you found out the cause of the fire, once you've found that there's been a resolution and that people can move on with their lives, then developers will come in and go, right, well, what are we going to do with this?
Yeah.
They're already they're phoning people that are still in Maui to say, hi, yeah, we'd like to buy some of your land and property already. That's strange. So Yahoo doesn't exactly say who is trying to invest, but we can have a good guess because back in July 2021, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory have assured that. Unfortunately, I don't think we can get that up, but it's on.
Right. It's in the website. Reading this in the description.
Perfect. Well, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory (NREL) have assured everyone that Maui will become 100% renewable.
Right. So this is interesting because when the wildfires in Greece happened,
Yes,
a little bit before
yeah,
that happened, there was a development company that wanted to buy up a large swath of the land for wind turbines.
yes,
Because, of course, lots of the renewables, like solar, which would be very profitable there's a fly in here, I hate this. I said a Mike Pence moment. Very profitable in a sunny place like Hawaii.
yes.
Might be interested in needing a large amount of land.
Well, it's interesting you say that, and you can read this for yourself. Maui has signed up to the Sustainable Development Program.
Of course, everyone does for the UN, yep.
For the UN and World Economic Forum as well, just to slip that in there. But they're not waiting until 2045, which you can read on that, to meet Hawaii's clean energy mandates. The island is likely to become the first interconnected electric transmission system anywhere to operate with 100% wind and solar PV power on an instantaneous basis.
And it's very beneficial for the Americans to have just off their coast a reliable generation satellite state, which could use undersea cables.
Perfect.
Okay.
It's very fishy. Very fishy. Well, there seems to be a big corporate take home with this. I mean, like you just said, and yes, going green is very profitable for corporations these days, especially you've spoken a lot about ECG and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
ESG, sorry. But a few notable people that have expanded their property in Maui for the last few months before this disaster, Oprah Winfrey,
right,
is one of them, where she bought up more than 870 acres for $6.6 million. So she now owns a total of over 1,000 acres on Maui.
Right.
Many celebrities obviously have property in Maui.
Oh, and Jeff Bezos, who's investing heavily into green tech.
Yes.
Oh.
And Peter Thiel, the founder of PayPal.
Oh, right, yeah.
Also has purchased homes there. I think one of them is $27 million, which he purchased back in 2011.
Are you aware of some of his other investments?
I think a few of them, yeah.
I've done a report on the website titled "The Real Vampires of Silicon Valley." He's very interested in anti-aging technologies.
Oh yes, okay, yeah. Don't want to necessarily get demonetized for talking about the anti-aging.
No, just I don't trust these people. I'll put it that way.
Don't.
Yeah,
put it that way. You know, there are other celebrities there, like Jim Carrey has like some properties there. I think a guy from a particular band. Gosh, I forgot the band's name, but it should be on there for you guys to read anyway. So that's strange. Also, speaking of Jeff Bezos, Bill and Melinda Gates got married on that particular island as well at a golf course who supposedly stole a lot of the water there, according to The Guardian.
Right.
So there's a strange sort of circle of people there that have a lot of vested interest in the island and, well, it's resources, put it that way.
Okay. Yeah, this stinks to high heaven.
Yeah, it stinks, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think Naomi Klein's probably right on this one.
Yeah. There was one last link that I didn't put in, so I'll just have to rattle it off. Unfortunately, it's from the communist hellhole TikTok.
Right.
So, you know, take this with a pinch of salt. But people have been uploading videos or screenshots of eviction notices for people or survivors that didn't have their properties burned by the fire. So still withstanding, but the mayor has turned around and said, no, you're still having an eviction. You've got to be out by this date.
Is this because they didn't pay their rent, or is it because they're saying that it's an unsafe?
Yeah.
Right, so it's only unsafe because you didn't sound the warning sirens and you stopped the water.
But you still got to get out anyway. Yeah. And I did have a link to people basically showing these eviction notices because there's a couple. But unfortunately I didn't add it to this list. So apologies for that. But you can find them. Unfortunately, you just have to ravage through that hellhole that is TikTok.
Or wait till they're reposted to Twitter.
True.
Yes.
Could be doing that, yeah.
I suppose, speaking of Twitter, probably the person with the best response to this, probably America's president?
Yes. Well, I was going to say, to wrap it up, the leader of the free world is showing, well, I mean, just look how much he cares.
Yeah, so I've seen this fact-checked.
Oh, yes.
Debunked.
Yes, debunked.
With,
yeah.
Underneath, there was a community notes on the original thing that I sent you for this that said, no, he's just bowing his head.
He's bowing his head.
So I opened the link that they provided, which is the original C-SPAN clip, and I watched the clip in full. And it's a very slow, very tired,
mono tired,
yeah, that takes a couple of minutes for his eyes to close. So maybe he was
a long bow,
really mournful.
Oh yes,
or he's got dementia.
Yeah, or he's got something wrong with him.
Yes,
and he can't seem to keep his eyes open. Yeah. So that's what Biden and the establishment. I think it sums it up really perfectly. I mean, as much as we're taking the mick, it actually sums up how much the establishment and the media really care about the indigenous that have been. Well, there's thousands of people missing potentially, and
hundreds dead,
and
yet their communities are still being torn apart for seeming profit of international
seeming yes. So it's strange how the establishment left care to go against corporations all these years, but now all of a sudden it's no, we like that because it's green. Bit weird, but that's me.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, why not visit our website where you can get the podcast live, in full, uncensored, and for free from 1 o'clock UK time every weekday. And while you're there, for as little as £5 a month, you can get access to all of our premium content. For example, Dan's series Brokenomics, where he and Carl discuss the observable managed decline in our civilization. And if you'd like to see what the rest of us are putting out, you can follow Dan at @KingBingo_ on Twitter and @LotusEaters_com on Twitter. Until next time, goodbye.